Back to Poetry Lockdown. We're at day 171. Um, as I mentioned, we're getting back in the school year, so these are slowing down a little for me, but I'm really enjoying still diving into the poetry. Um, so I mentioned early on in this whole series, I realized as I was going through these different poems that I would feature, that I had definitely have biases as a poet towards what I gravitate towards, and I think I really gravitate towards the human voice. I realize I don't select naturally on my own instincts a lot of nature poems and not a lot of animal poems. But this particular poem by Galway Kinnell, who's a poet who I'm learning to love his work, um, is a great, great animal poem for a pig. And so I thought before reading the poem, I'd read a little quote from an interview that Galway Kinnell gave that gives a great background into this poem. He says, this was in a 2001 interview with the Christian Science Monitor. He said, pig is a pejorative word, but if you get to know them, get a feeling for them, you see that they have an extraordinary beauty. When creatures don't have an extraordinary beauty, it's because the person in contact with them is not seeing it. I feel more and more in love with other creatures as I get older. That sounds great. I want to feel more and more in love with other creatures as I get older. So I'm going to imitate the way of Galway Kinnell in this poem, which also invokes my favorite saint, Saint Francis. So here we go. Saint Francis and de Sales by Galway Kinnell. The bud stands for all things, even for those things that don't flower. For everything flowers from within of self-blessing, though sometimes it is necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness, to put a hand on its brow of the flower and retell it in words and in touch. It is lovely, until it flowers again from within of self-blessing. As Saint Francis put his hand on the creased forehead of the sow and told her in words and in touch blessings of earth on the sow, and the sow began remembering all down her thick length, from the earthen snout all the way through the fodder and slops to the spiritual curl of the tail, from the hard spininess spiked out from the spine down through the great broken heart to the sheer blue milken dreaminess, spurting and shuddering from the 14 teats into the 14 mouths, sucking and blowing beneath them. The long, perfect loveliness of sow. Mm. Love this poem. And I love it because it's not sentimental or, it's not dreamy, although the word dreaminess comes up in the poem. I love it for its physicality, its tactile, sensual nature. Um, I really enjoy talking about sort of turning points in the poem. I love this metaphor of the bud, that it stands for all things, and that things flower and have to be retaught their own loveliness, and sometimes that comes as the poet Kinnell was saying in that interview, when others see them and really recognize the beauty. And for the sow, it's Saint Francis, who's famous for just having an understanding and a touch for animals that most humans didn't have. And so Saint Francis is the seer, who loves the sow into her understanding of her own beauty. And so that's really the turning point here when Saint Francis put his hand on the creased forehead of the sow. So I love that turning. That was probably my favorite moment in the poem. But I also love the end and just how, like I was saying earlier, just how physical and tactile this poem is. The hard spininess spiked out from the spine, uh, and then the milken dreaminess, spurting and shuddering from the 14 teats into the 14 mouths. Just the milk of the sow nourishing her children. it's a really moving image. So love everything about this poem, and super excited about reading more Galway Kinnell. Hope you enjoyed it too. And yeah, hope you have a good rest of your week and into your weekend, Labor Day. Peace to you all. Take care.